Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. Welcome to everybody here in Avas Shalom Torah Center, everybody on our YouTube channel, and in Torah Anytime and Kol Lashon. We are learning now Bava Metzia, Daf Kuf Ches Amud Aleph, Kach Amud Aleph. The topic of today's Shiur is Bar Matzra. Bar Matzra means that the person, if somebody wants to buy a piece of land or possibly an apartment, he should make sure first that the neighbor is not interested in that field that he wants to buy, right? In other words, the neighbor has a right, a strong halachic right to buy the field next door to him, and he has the right of way before anybody else. However, this halacha has many ramifications, many exceptions to the rule, many applications, which were all, not all, we're going to discuss most of them today. This is the main page of Bar Matzah. Bar Matzah appears many times in the Talmud, in the Gemara. This is the main place. This is the Habin Daf Kuf Chesam Daf Bava Metzia. This Shiur is Leilu Nishmas of Imor Menachem Ben Akiva, my aunt Aviva Bas Moshe, and the Refuas Chana Batzima, and Pinacha Bas Geula Rochel Chaim Ben Sete Besoch Shechol Yisrael. I still owe you a debt from last time. Before we continue, and we are in the second wide line of Kuf Ches Amud Aleph, I have two debts to pay you people, not monetary debts, but debts, meaning we have some holes from the previous year. Basically, we discussed the topic of Talmidei Chachamim not having to pay for security. Why do Talmidei Chachamim not have to pay for security? Meaning security taxes, because they themselves secure the town. In other words, the Torah that they learn protects the town, and therefore they don't need the soldiers. They don't need those that surround the city as guards. They don't need the watchtower, etc. They don't need the wall, because if it's a real Talmid Chacham, then his Torah protects him. What's a real Talmid Chacham? Says the Shulchan Aruch, it's a person who dedicates every or most of his free time for learning, either as a full-time learner, says the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, they speak about it, or it's a person who has a small business and he just works just enough in order to sustain himself, yeah, but not more than that. Yeah, he really, has minimal salary, and his interest is mostly in Torah, and his level of learning also has to be a level that he knows his stuff. He can, quote things from the Gemara here and there. He can, sit and learn the sugya. A person reaches a certain level and dedicates most of his time. Such a person is exempt from security taxes. Why? Because he himself is the security of the town, because the Torah is what protects us. I'm not going now to speak about political questions about Israel 2023, because I'm not interested in doing this right now, but I think the applications are quite clear, and we'll leave it at that. Anyway, the bigger question was regarding what's the other thing? The other tax that they may or may not have to pay is what happens if the townspeople want to find new water or do some kind of construction that involves physical work, and people in town get very, pioneering style, and they actually go and they dig with their own hands the wells. The Talmidei Chachamim are exempt, because the Talmid Chacham is not supposed to actually go with everybody else to dig holes, because it's not respectable. He should be viewed by people as somebody, above other people. He's somebody, a little bit above and beyond, and therefore he shouldn't start getting his hands dirty together with everybody else. That's a Talmid Chacham. Now, if the kind of work they do is, if the arrangement is that they all go with their own bodies to fix the pipes and to dig the holes, then he's exempt from that totally. And therefore, he have to pay somebody else to come in lieu of him, instead of him. However, if the agreement to begin with was that everybody is only paying a company, like in the modern world, we don't fix our pipes and we don't collect the garbage, right? In normal urban places, you pay the city, and the city does that. In such a case, the Talmid Chacham does have to pay for cleaning the garbage and fixing the holes, because it's not supposed to be his job to begin with. It's only a job that's a paid job right from the start. In such a thing, money he has to pay like everybody else. Who, by the way, has to pay for the security taxes if the Talmid Chacham doesn't? Other people. If you're in a town where 50% of the people are Talmidei Chachamim, the other 50% are not, the 50% who are not Talmidei Chachamim, they should pay the taxes of the security for the Talmidei Chachamim. Yeah, and at the same time, the Ramos says that people should respect Talmidei Chachamim, and whoever speaks against them is a kofer and a pikoros. So this is a very severe thing. Before people open their mouths about people who sit in koilel, army, no army, people should be extremely careful about that. I'm not coming here to paskin, there are different opinions, but these things are quite, scary. Anyway, at that point, let's continue. I'll be happy to discuss this another time, another forum. But right now, I'd like to continue into Bar Matzra. What's Bar Matzra? A neighbor, a neighbor. So here's our story. Yeah, I'm really, really sorry that online it doesn't really look so elegant. It's the whiteboard. IN, Shimon is IN, interested neighbor. Reuven is about to sell his field. Mr. Shimon is an interested neighbor. Yeah, this is not India's internet domain. I think it is actually. Yeah, Shimon is an interested neighbor, and Levi is the buyer. Levi wants to buy. Levi wants to buy the land from Reuven. Levi is not allowed to buy the land from Reuven. If the neighbor Shimon wants to buy it first, we assume he wants to buy it first. And Shimon can actually even evict him and kick him out and say, no, your sale is not a sale. I was automatically the first one in line. Yeah, you know the word queue? Yeah, he's the first one in the queue. Automatically, it's Shimon the neighbor. He has the right to buy. Why? Because it says in the Torah, it says at the beginning of Chumash Dvorim, "Osisa hayosher ve'atoiv." You, Levi, you have an obligation to do what's right and just and good in the eyes of Hashem. And because Shimon has been fantasizing all his life to double the area of his beautiful cornfield or wheat field or whatever field. Right now he has a chance to actually have one long field. There's no space in between, by the way. I just did it for Levi. They're really adjacent, yeah? They're adjacent, right, Mamish? Yeah, so now Shimon has every right in the world to expand his field, and therefore Levi is out of the game. That's the general rule. If you have questions of if and how, that's a little bit uninvited, because we're going to have a lot of different cases. What if then a woman, a man, a thing, you're going to have every shape and form of questions about dealt in the Gemara itself about this scenario. One important thing before you ask your questions, although the Gemara will only say it later, but you should note already now, the obligation is on Levi the buyer, not on Reuven the seller. Reuven the seller, we're going to see enough kamina, it's not his obligation to sell it to Shimon the neighbor. It is Levi's obligation not to butt in, not to barge in before Shimon has his right first. What's enough kamina? We're going to see later. We're also going to explain a very, very nice for why that's true. But remember already now, the chiyuv of a sisa eshel v'atov is on Levi. Reuven himself to tell Shimon, you don't tell me who to sell to, because otherwise I could stay here myself. He can't complain. Why don't I have a big field? What do you mean? I've been here for the past 50 years and I could stay if I want to. But Shenken, once the field is for sale, once the field is empty, that second in between, then Levi is the one pushing in. Then says Reuven, no. Then says Shimon, you Levi, you're coming to do a new thing. You're coming to buy field with money. No, with the same money, go buy the field over there. Buy another field, not the field. It disturbs me, and I wanted it all my life. To be continued and explained. We also spoke about Hefker. Okay, we'll discuss more things as we progress, as we go along. And now it's time for questions. When Yaakov is the first one to ask the question. Without knowing otherwise, as far as I know, it's automatically assumed Shimon wants to be the first buyer, even if Shimon didn't announce it and say, yeah, l'choira, b'pashta, that seems to be right. Okay, yes? Okay, go. Second line of Bava Metzia Kuf Ches Amud Aleph, more details about Vasisa Hayosher Vato B'nei Hashem. Who has to do the right thing in this story? Levi, the buyer. If you do what's right, you have money. With the same 2 million shekels, you can buy a dira or a piece of land here or there. Leave him alone. He wanted it to have it all his life, or so we assume, and so he declares, I want it now. So you, Levi, take your money and buy somewhere else. If you cannot buy somewhere else, that can be discussed. But we assume that with the same money, you can buy elsewhere. Now, comes the Gemara with a very, very interesting concept. Also, imlich bey. What happens if, we already said it last time, I'm going to repeat it now. What happens if Levi the buyer, the potential buyer, goes and he consults with Shimon, the interested neighbor? He consults with him and asks him, do you think it's a good idea to buy it? By the way, he didn't exactly tell him, do you waive your rights? Remember that. He didn't say, do you give up your rights? Sign on the dotted line. Because he has rights. Shimon has rights of a Sisa Yoshavatov to be the first one to get the field, right? Now, came Levi and told him, do you recommend that I buy that land? Do you think it's a good idea for me to buy the land? Assuming if he says yes, he gave his okay, right? He didn't scream and shout, I want it first. No. Omer lei izil izbun, and he asked him, should I go and buy it? Shall I go and buy that piece of land from who? From Reuven the seller? The Omerle, and you know what? Came Shimon and told him, the neighbor told him, Zil Zbun, go and buy it. These were his words. So now we can interpret it in two different ways. One way we can say, go buy it, meaning I'm giving up my rights, and good and fine, go buy, and gesundheit, I'm not interested in extending my field and expanding it. Says the Gemara, or actually the Gemara asks at this point, after he said those beautiful words, go buy, is that already a done deal and he gave up his rights? Or do we still have to have a kinyan, a sudar? What's a kinyan? A kinyan shows two things. That what I said is not a joke, and secondly, it's a done deal, right? If I tell you, let's say tomorrow I want to sell you my computer, it's not, maybe it's a joke. Akiva uses his computer every day, and also I don't have money to buy a new computer necessarily. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe I'm selling you my computer. So what do we do in order to make sure that it's true and I'm not talking shtiot in a joke? What do? Make a kinyan, right? Oh, do we say that he has to make a kinyan? In other words, that Levi and and Shimon have to make a kinyan to make sure that he's serious about it. And really, when he said go buy, it means you can go and buy, and I have no claims anymore, right? And it's a done deal, and it's a serious word here, over here. It's serious business, and seriousness is shown by kinyan, pick up a sudar, or maybe not, or maybe the mere words alone. If he said go buy, it means goodbye. It means I'm not interested, and you can go and buy, and I'm out of the business without making a kinyan. We assume his words are serious. Ravina Omar, Ravina says, no, you don't have to make a kinyan. Ravina says the mere fact that he said go buy it, we assume the person is sane. He's not a Michiganer, he's not a jokester. He realizes it's big business. You don't make jokes about that. And obviously, by the way, it's not exactly a joke, the other side. We'll explain it later. But just to explain Ravina now, Ravina says no. The mere fact he said the words go and buy, let's say the two ADM recording machines, says go buy that field of Reuven, that's gesundheit enough. Later on, he will have no claims anymore. You said, hey, should have a word of a man, as they say. Nardoy Amri, oh, Nardoy says no. There has to be a kinyan. Why? Because again, if there was no clear kinyan on what, stating clearly, you can go buy the field and I have no claims anymore, you know what he could have told him? Not could have. You know what he can tell him? I didn't say I gave up my rights. Mark my words and listen to my very beautiful words and infer what I want you to infer. I said you go buy it doesn't mean that I gave up my rights. I want to use you as a shliach. I want to use you like a marionette, like what? Like a puppet. In other words, if I am going to buy this, I'm Shimon. If I'll buy it from Reuven, Reuven knows that I'm dying for this field, and for me it's worth a lot. Yeah, for me it's worth much more. He's not going to ask me for the regular price market of 2 million. He'll ask me for 4 million, which I from some odd reason don't have. I want you to buy it ki'ilu on my behalf. Go buy it means I'm meshalech you. I'm like sending you like a meshalech shliach. You buy it for me. You buy it for 2 million. You'll now, Levi, you'll take over this checker over here, the field. You'll be the owner of 2 million, and then I'll buy it from you for 2 million and not more. This way I'll make money. It's the same thing as if I am, sending someone's going to America, someone's going to, I don't know, wherever, Europe, and asking, buy me some gadget, something electric for cheap. I sent you to buy it, and now you come and you buy it and it's mine. Zok the Gemara, what's halacha? V'hilchasa. What is halacha? Sarich lemikna minei. Halacha is like the yeshiva man of Nardoi. You have to be koine. What does it mean? You have to actually make a kinyan to make sure that the interested neighbor really gave up his rights. He waived his rights. You have to make a kinyan to make sure that he means business, and he won't come to you later and says, "Hey, I said I told you to go buy it. Yeah, why? Because I want you to buy it, and then I'll buy it from you for the same price. You'll really be my shliach. You'll be my puppet. To avoid that, make a kinyan. As we always say, you have to have everything very, very clear in halacha and in life. Any monetary business has to be very clear. Otherwise, there's a problem." Comes the Gemara now with a tremendous chiddush. It's not a very big chiddush. It is and it's not a chiddush. Let me just pause for a second. Why did I give you this example, which is very simplistic, about if I don't send. Let's say a friend goes to America, sometimes, Tzvi, right? He goes to America, he says, Tzvi, please, can you buy me something in America? It's much cheaper, some camera or something, and come back to Israel, right? Let's say, I tell Tzvi, no, buy something. He buys it for $30 in America. Who for? For me, right? And then he comes to Eretz Israel with a $30 camera. Let's say we go online and we see that by the time he flew from New York to Israel, instead of 30, this is now worth 50. Psh, big inflation in America. Will he sell it to me now for 50? Obviously not. It's not his camera that he can make a cut on it, right? It's my camera all along. He was just my shliach. And the same thing, if instead of 50, it's now 40, I'm not going to pay him less, or 30, it's now 10, I won't pay him less. That's what's going on over here. Unbelievable. Listen to this. Listen to the following Gemara. Hashta de Omar tzorch lemikna minei. Now the way we've established the halacha is that he has to make a kinyan over the rights, over giving up his neighbor's rights. And if really there was no kinyan, we view Mr. Levi the buyer as a puppet, as a shliach of the neighbor. Let's say he, Levi, bought the field from Reuven for the regular 2 million. He bought it for the nice, humble price of 2 million. Okay. And now, that was a certain time of the year, and he was there. But really, all along, who really has the rights over the field? Shimon. Shimon never gave up his rights. So really, Levi that got into the field is the shliach of Shimon. And the 2 million were ke'ilu bought on behalf of Shimon the neighbor. And therefore what? Let's say 3-4 months passed, and meanwhile, it's in the hands of Levi. Shimon happened to be in Chutz La'aretz, happens to be busy. It's one thing in his mind to go back and claim the field from Levi because he always had the rights and he never gave up on them because there was no kinyan. Let's say in between, continues the Gemara, Aikur v'zoil birshusei. Let's say like this. Let's say the field instead of 2 million went up to 3 million. Can Levi now claim from Shimon 3 million? No, because it's like the camera that was bought from me in Chutz La'aretz. Because that 2 million, it wasn't yours, Levi. 2 million. Now there's another million. You can make a cut. That's what people make money in real estate. No, you can't because it was never really yours. Because the rights, I had my tentacles, Shimon, Kilu, there all the time. Because I never gave up my neighbor's rights. You bought it, you Kilu bought it on my behalf. Even though it wasn't clearly Meshalech you, I did view it as Meshalech. I said, go buy. I meant go buy for me. Mimele, if you went up, I'm not going to give you more. What about if he went down? Oh, let's say the other way around. Let's say Shimon wants to play games and say, you bought it for 2 million? Let's say, but the 3-4 months, it already went down to 1.5. Oh, I'll only give you 1.5. No, you have to give him 2. Because when he bought it for 2 million, it's as if you sent him to the market to buy something for 2 million. And as the Gemara says it very nicely, Aikar was all Birshusei. The going up or going down in price was all the time in the Rishus of Shimon. When Tzvi buys a camera for me in America, once it's in his hands, it's already mine. It's mine for $30. Later on, it goes up and down. That's none of my business, nor his. It stays $30 forever because at that moment became mine. That's what I'll give him as a pure shliach. Next case. Zoban b'mea v'shovi moson. Oh, let's say that field is worth 200, 200,000, 200, whatever. But this guy, Levi, managed to buy it for Shimon from Reuven. Reuven is the seller. Reuven, the seller, sold it to the guy, to Levi, for half price. For half price. Everybody else gets it for 200. And even if Shimon wouldn't be a neighbor, he'd get it for 200. But Levi got it for 100. Now the question is, how much should Shimon give Levi? Shimon is killed the Meshaleach. How much should he give Levi? 100 or 200? He paid 100. But then maybe Levi can say, no, it's because of me. I got a good price because I'm Levi. I'm the nice guy that he likes. So I got it for 100. You would have gotten it for 200. So pay me 200. If Tzvi goes and tells me, I bought it in America for $30 because it's my friend, the seller. But really, it's a secondhand thing. Yeah. Let's say everyone else gets it for 50. That's a good question. Should I pay him 50 or 30? Says the Gemara, Chazina. Let's see. Let's view. Let's inspect the case. What kule alma? If that guy Reuven, although it's worth 200, he's very rushed to sell it. And for anybody in the market, he would sell it for 100. The market price of the land is 200. Reuven himself happens to sell it to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, Reuven, Levi, Shimon, Mackenzie. He sells it for 100. Then it's 100. then of course Shimon should give now Levi 100. But if not, if for everybody else he sells it for 200, he happens to like Levi. Either Levi's his friend, or Levi drove him crazy, or Levi's a good stoicher. Levi's the kind of guy who knows how to do business well and make you go down in price. He's a good wheeler dealer. Then Yaivle Mason Vishakile. Then Levi can tell Shimon, only to me he sold 100. Had you been there, you'd be giving you at least 200. So give me 200. I can make a cut. It's true that I'm your shliach, but I'm such a chorif person. I'm such a shrewd businessman. To me, he sold for 100. But I really, what I got for you on a silver tray is really a field of worth 200 for everybody else except for me or smart people like me. Mimela what? Mimela you have to pay me now 200, and Levi can make a very kosher cut of 100. Good business. Okay? Now, the other way around. The other way around. The next case, the third case ready for today. You can count the cases. Zoban b'mason v'shavya mea ashlemadol Levi. Oy, 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 oy. Really, what? It's worth 100. It's worth 100 in the market. Levi got it for 200. Yeah. So now that's a question. Sovo mino. Yeah. We thought originally what would be the halacha? Matzi omar lei. Now the question is obviously as follows. Levi says, I paid 200. Give me 200. Says Shimon, you got it for 200. Oy vavoy. Really, everybody else, even me, we would have got it for 100. So you got it for 200. I'll only pay 100 because that's the market price. How could he tell him that? Says the Gemara, the very, very famous line here, Letikuni ishdartich velo leivuti. What does that mean? It's a line that appears in Kiddushi in the beginning of the second parak. Letikuni ishdartich velo leivuti. The concept of shlichus is that a person gives, the Ktos HaChoshen explains, a person gives his kochos, a person gives his halachic power, his halachic authority to take truma, to be mekadesh, makdish, do whatever, buy, sell a field. He gives those powers to a shliach, and then what the shliach does works back for him. Like the woman is mekudesh to the mishalech, right? That's how it works. However, if let's say the shliach didn't do good, didn't do well, the shliach messed up. In his shlichus, something bad came out of the shlichus. For example, over here, a field that's worth 100, the shlemazel of a Levi, got it for 200. Maybe the meshaleach, which is Shimon, can tell him, litikunish dartich. I only sent you to do good things for me, velo leivuti, not to distort, not to mess things up and get things worse. Yeah. In other words, if you did something on my behalf that doesn't work right, automatically the whole shlichus retroactively never happened. My shlichus I only want my shlichus to work for my good, to improve the situation, not to make it worse. And therefore, if you now got the field for 200, I'm not paying you 200. Why? Because you messed it up. Elamai, it's time. Really, it should stay 100. 100 is what I'll pay you. That's what I had in mind. That's what everybody else would pay for such a field. Maybe you should only get 100. No, there's another factor here, which you guys should know. What about, is there a difference between fields and everybody else, everything else when it comes to prices going up too much? The Bnei Shiva of Nardo said on behalf of Rav Nachman, Eino no lekarkois. We saw this in Daf Nun Vav and in other places. Eino no lekarkois. A karka, there's no overpricing by land. Yeah, because a land is something that some people would like very, very much, even if it's worth very little. For certain people, a piece of land is worth very, very much. They want that piece of land, punk next to the field, punk next to the river, as we said in the previous parak. Yeah, that reminds them of the dream home they always had, or whatever, wanted to have in their fantasies. I don't know what, they wanted this house. The kids, their houses don't have, there's a question in Torah says about 50%, but Lamaisa, here we see that even though the house is worth 100 and you got it for 200, it's not enough. In other words, you can't say, I had this price in mind, and that's a fixed price, and 1 shekel above that I won't pay. You pay whatever the price is, whatever the person is asking for. And again, you remember also that the Meshalech here was a bit of a, he wasn't really Meshalech clearly. He didn't say, I'm sending you. The whole thing is a bit, iffy. And therefore, there's a gvul how much you can, when I say exploit, there's a gvul how much you can, demand of Levi. And if Levi got it for 200, you pay him 200. When it comes to karkois, the prices are anyhow not so fixed and not so set, and that's how we behave. Continues the Gemara. Yes, question time. And soon we're going to start today's Amud in Metzia, which is Kuf Ches Amud. Next case. I know it gets not complicated, but different. Dovin legriva de ara b'mitzei mitza nichsei, which means, let's say there's a little bit of griva is like a tefach, I think, or an ama. Griva is a small measurement. It's not such a great picture here, but basically, Reuven sold Levi a piece of land amongst other fields of Reuven. R. Reuven has all kinds of fields here, and he sold him one piece of land amongst all the other fields, and Shimon is next door. Everyone would say, what do you mean? That's not bar matzra, right? Levi got in the middle of Reuven's area. Reuven is all over, and it remains Reuven's. I only bought the middle one. I'm Levi. I'm Levi's Torn Rabboni. Levi, my client, only bought in the middle. All these pieces all around belong to Reuven. So of course Shimon has no right to talk. Not so simple. We are concerned that Levi is a sly guy and wants to da 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 da. Says the Gemara, Chazina, let's see. If this piece of land is significantly idis or ziburis, translation please, it's much better than the other fields or much worse than the other fields. It makes sense. Well, he wants this field and not all the others. Normally, a person would buy the whole shebang. Why is he buying somewhere in the middle? Interpretation number one, it's much better. He wants high quality, doesn't want these garbage fields, excuse the language, or he wants a worse one because that's what he can afford. He can't afford the other outer ones. However, comes the punchline and the next page, the loi. Let's say this piece of land in the middle, and let's say it's even a small piece of land, not like in the picture. Yeah, he only bought like strangely like one area in the middle of all the other lands. Why doesn't he buy all the other lands, just one small piece in the middle, which is exactly the same? Something fishy here. Iarumi kamarim. We are scared that Levi has a master plan. He wants to work with a salami system, as they call it. He is sly, he's ma'arim. What is a salami system? He wants to not buy. Listen, it's like the Yetzer Hara. He says, I have a piece in the middle. Now he wants to buy the entire field. But now he'll be able to tell Shimon, are you a neighbor? I'm also a neighbor. He wants to create neighborship here. He wants to have one foot through the door. Now, you're a neighbor. Eventually, tomorrow, he's going to buy all the fields and leave Shimon without his rights and say, Shimon, you're a neighbor. You've been a neighbor for 30 years and you always have that field. I'm also a neighbor. I'm a neighbor here since yesterday. Because yesterday, I bought that little field over here, that little junky area over here. I bought in the middle, so I'm a neighbor. He's basically making symbolic a neighbor rights over here. And now he says, hey, me too. And therefore, in such a situation, when he buys that, we already misalik him straight away. Wow. In other words, yeah, and therefore says Rashi, I'm not sure if all Rishonim agree, but Rashi says if he buys a small piece of the land in a way that seems suspicious and fishy, already at that point we kick him out and he say, no, you, Reuven, you want to sell that piece in the middle? Have Shimon have it and not Levi the new buyer. Because we're concerned, salami system. One cut, another cut, another cut, another cut, gradually you get the whole thing. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. That's what we're concerned about. Next case, Matono, Ashene Gishang. Matono, what's Matono? Oh, let's say Reuven gives Levi a gift. Levi is his son-in-law, learns in yeshiva in Koilel. Yeah, Reuven gives Levi the entire field. We're out of that case. Yeah, this is all one big happy family, all one big field. Yeah, we're done with the other case. There's one field of Reuven, and that field of Reuven was given as a gift to Levi. There's no sisa yosher batoiv. Why? Because Shimon cannot. Levi, why did you choose this field? Choose any other field. Are you nuts? Excuse my language. Yeah. What do you mean? This field costs $5 million. I don't have $5 million in the bank, and the bank won't give me a mortgage. This guy Reuven is giving me for free. Of course, I'm not going to have $5 million field for free. Only this one. I can't just go buy any other field. Oh, thank you so much. I can't just go and buy any other field in the world, right? And therefore, only this one is mine and nowhere else. You have no right to claim anything. Thank you very much. Oh, nice big field. This is Reuven, the seller. Thank you. Very nice. Now, however, here comes a big Chazal suspect of people being liars sometimes. Omar Meimar, because of leachrayes is b'mishum dina de b'matzah. Let's say Reuben the seller wrote Levi the buyer, achrayes. I'll be giving you this for free. 5 million for free, large, because I like you. You're a nice guy. And what? But I'm giving you achrayes. I'm writing you achrayes. What does it mean? That if anything happens to the field, if the field will be taken by the mortgage, by the malveh, by the bank, by the thing, or sold further, yeah, I'll pay you, I'll reimburse you with 5 million. People don't do that with matanas. When you get money, you have guarantee. If you give somebody a gift, a gift for anything, you don't say if anything breaks, come back to me and claim it back for me. Normally, that's not done. We suspect that really there was a sale for money, and they write it as if it's a matana, and they're hiding it. They're hiding it because they know the halacha. In other words, Levi and Reuven are swindlers, and they write as if it's a matana. Well, really, it's not. People do it all the time in this country for tax purposes. They're right. It's not a salary, just a gift, and all kinds of things like that. Yeah, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but that's what's done. That's what Chazal are concerned, and therefore there is isbam shum did b'matzah, and that's Shulchan Aruch. If the gift was gifted but with a chrayas, that smells funny and looks like really it's a sale. And if it's a sale, back to square one. Of course, didn't b'matzah, and we tell Levi, and your 5 million that you did pay under the table, go and buy with that 5 million another field elsewhere and stop bothering Shimon, the poor interested neighbor. Next case. Reuven has other fields in other areas. Reuven has other fields in all kinds of places, in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, and in Japan. Reuven has the field here, field here, field there. He's a big business mogul, a big real estate tycoon, and also he has this land. And now they made a general sale of what? Reuven is selling, all the newspapers talk about it. Reuven sold Levi all his property, all his lands were sold from Reuven to Levi. This, and over there too. The whole thing is sold to him. There's no dina de matzra. We cannot kick Levi out and say this one you don't get, only the others. Why? Because I'll tell you why. Says Rashi, if the whole idea of the sale is all or nothing, some businessmen they work like that. I'm selling you everything, I'm buying everything. If Levi would be denied and rejected from one field, he won't buy the other fields either. And therefore, you're now hurting Reuven. Says Rashi something which we always have to remember in halacha. Says Rashi beautifully, just like we're concerned for Shimon's and his rights, we're concerned for Reuven's rights too. If Reuven will not sell Levi this field, Levi will cancel the entire deal. Because Levi wants the whole vort is the entirety of the whole his entire business world. That's what he wants to buy. You're not telling me one, I'll cancel everything else. Then Reuven comes out to be losing big time. That we don't want, and then we tell Shimon, we're so sorry. This field is part of a much bigger picture you don't even see, and therefore you, with all due respect, will allow Levi to buy this. Otherwise, the whole deal will be canceled. Unless, of course, Levi agrees otherwise, but he doesn't. So we're not going to ruin Reuven's entire business deal, which is huge, just because of Levi's rights. Because Reuven also has his rights of a Sisei Shavatov, says Rashi. Many times, in the secular world, they're so concerned about the rights of one party, it infringes on the rights of the other. Allah is not like that. We try to please everyone. Give me a second, please. Lebailim harishoinim. Let's say Levi was once an owner. This is Levi's second time. Levi was there as a child. Such fun childhood memories of the golden wheat that he used to play and reap. Levi is now as we said in English, buying it from Reuven. No, you have sentiments and you have ideas of expanding your field. So do I. I was forced to sell my field. Says Shulchan Aruch, even my father's fields. Yeah, and I want to go back to the family property. And we know halacha is very machshiv, the concept of family heritage, not heritage. I'm saying family inheritance and family property. And therefore, it's my rights as much as yours to go back to my land, just like you want to expand yours. And in a way, I was here before. I was here first, mister. And therefore, there's no tzitzer shavatov. And Levi has the right, and not the neighbor. Levi the buyer, and not Shimon the neighbor. Soon we're going to talk about the goyim, but first. Next case is what happens when the buyer is not Levi, but rather, who is he? Is Leon, whatever. Is Tim McKenzie. He's a goy. What happens if the buyer is a goy or the seller is a goy? The seller is a goy. Now, as we said before, and I explain now why, the obligation of a sisa shavatov is not in the seller, only in the buyer. Why? Says Rashi, the seller, can say, "Excuse me, you want to expand your field? You're angry with me for selling to another person? I would, let me stay here myself. My status quo is I'm here. You always wanted to buy my field? Tough. Yeah, you fantasize on my field. You're over lotachmod. I'm joking. Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, it's my field. Who says I have to sell it to anybody or you? I decided to sell or stay. You're not on my cards, b'chlal. The Sheikh and Levi comes to a new situation. Levi is now coming to a field where what? Levi has a completely different side of the spectrum here. Levi has money and wants to buy any good field. And Chanami, if Levi has other interests, we'll see that later. Let's say Levi can buy the same field in 5 different places. Like today in Eretz Israel, in Bet Shemesh, you think of buying an apartment in Ramat Daled, they'll tell you it's the same project. There's an apartment for one. There are many different apartments, more or less the same. Pick the one, more or less the same view, same size, same this. Why do we need after this one? You can go and buy another one, more or less the same price, same location, same b'chule. Yeah, just get rid of nice 3 million shekels, and then we'll be your best friends. What's the problem? Yeah, and that's the idea over here. You Levi, you come to a new situation post the idea of selling. And now you coming with money, dafka to buy this? No, I want that first. I was here all the time. You're a new guy. He's not a new guy, Reuven. Reuven was here all along. Who says he has to sell it? He could stay. You're not interested in me selling to the other guy? I'm not selling you either. I can stay here myself. The Sheikh and Levi? No. You, Levi, you're a new guy that comes to the scene with money, interested in buying a field. Buy another field and leave this to me because I was here before you ever knew about this field. That's more or less the concept. Now, let's start. We'll see how it develops. Zoban me'akum bezabin le'akum. Either Levi bought it from a goy, or Reuven sells it to a goy. Two opposite cases. In both cases, or in neither case, leis b'm shumdina de matzah. The Gemara explain why. There's no bar matzah either when you sold to a goy or bought from a goy. Yeah, there's no bar matzah. Let's see why. Zoban me'akum. Let's say Levi bought it from Tim McKenzie. This was McKenzie and McKinley's field. And now they are not nice people. Let's say the Oved of the Zara. Oved of the Zara, not like in today's civil world, but the Shulchan Aruch already says, it says in Maseches Eruv, in other places, be a neighbor of an Oved of the Zara, in a society that's not exactly human rights driven society, a Jew and a Goy, a Jew is mamish in sakana. Yeah, it's a sakana to be next to Oved of the Zara, or at least unpleasant, ruchnias, gashmias, a lot of unpleasant issues here when you live next to some rough, real idol worshiper, real pagan, you don't want to live next to him. It can cause issues. And he says, the Omar Lei, so if you sold it from Akum, the buyer Levi can tell Shimon, you're complaining. You're complaining about the matzah. I chased away the lion from your neighborhood. Yeah, because now you have a nice Jewish neighbor. That's me. I'm a nice guy, really. I can, be your chavrusa. I can, eat with you cholent and Shabbos. I couldn't do that with him. My wife dresses betznias. You have a lot. I'm not going to kill you either. I'm much, much nicer than Tim McKenzie, who wasn't. Yeah. So if anything, don't complain. Yeah, you want to have the whole field? Okay, you can't have it all. And therefore, Yachasit relative, it's also a Yoshavatov. It's also a form. Rashi says that's the best Yoshavatov that there is. I moved away the nasty neighbor. Zobin le'akum. Let's say Reuven sold it to Tom McKinley. It's Reuven who sold it to a goy. So as we said before, as I told you, the one that has the obligation of Sisei Shavatov is the buyer. You're talking to the buyer, to the goy. Akum vadelabar v'Sisei Shavatovu, right? The Akum himself, the idol worshiper, the pagan guy. I don't mean any person. Yeah, the pagan person, he doesn't have Sisei Shavatov. It's not in his moral compass. It's not within realm of understanding to the Yoshavatov. That guy, the pagan guy, we can't complain to him and tell him you should let Shimon have it first. He's not going to listen to us. It's not in the story. However, something here falls between the cracks. It's not right. Because at the end of the day, even if it's not a problem of Yoshavatov, the fact that Reuven sold it to a goy, it may not be a Sisei Yoshavatov, but Lamaitz, because that's on the goy, and the goy doesn't have that obligation. But why did you bring a goy next door, a bad one, not a nice one, an Akum, a pagan, an idol worshiper? Why did you bring him next door to Shimon? It's dangerous. Imagine yourself, I don't know, Ukraine 100 years ago. Yeah, I don't know, that kind of thing. Yeah, You brought Ivan and Stashik and Franik to be next to him. Oy vavoy. Now Shimon is in danger or is going to be besakono. Therefore, in such a case, not a Yosher Batov, it's just downright wrong to do that. What do? Shamuti vade mishamtinan lei. We put Reuven in Cherem. We put Reuven, the one who sold to a goy next to another Jew, not in Cherem forever. It is reparable. Ad the mikabel lekol oinsi the osil lemachamosei. Oh, we put him in Cherem and say, listen, you are in Cherem unless you accept all the damages that Ivan and Stashik will do to your old neighbor Shimon. You have to accept to pay for that. It's groma. Thank you. That's a chiddush. We need a shamta for that. Although normally it's a groma. I sell the field. I went to America. Now, I don't know, Stashik and Franik debadu. Not my problem. We say, no, we make a special halacha, a special chumrah, the one who sells to an unpleasant akum that stays next to the yid, that if that akum causes any damage because he's an akum and he's a Jew, not stam. For example, says the Shulchan Aruch, I read the halacha this time, Shulchan Aruch says, let's say they cause him all kinds of losses that according to the law of the country are legal and according to halacha are illegal. Yeah, I could think of all kinds of things like that. Yeah, they make him pay for the elevator. Well, really, according to halacha, he doesn't have to. The one who has to pay for that is Reuven. You can't run away to wherever you want. You'll be in Cherem wherever you are, unless you have constant fear of being in Cherem, unless you pay for the damages caused by the akum that you sold to Shimon. If it happens to be a nice akum and it's a good guy, doesn't hurt the fly, doesn't hurt Shimon, we're not racist, we're not against anybody. But if the Metzia is that Ivan and Stashik are troublemakers, start calling him Heil Hitler, and the kids get scared and can't sleep at night, pay for that. You have to pay for that. Pay with your v'chulei. So then Reuben will think twice before he sells to the guy. And if yes, he has to pay through his nose. Next, okay, quick one. I think that's the last one for today. Yeah. Weiter. Mashkanta. Mashkanta. Oh, nice word. Mashkanta actually means as follows. Mashkanta, in this case, mashkanta is mortgage, like in modern Hebrew. Let's say Reuven now, is not the actual, Reuven is the seller, Reuven once borrowed money, Reuven borrowed money from Levi, right? And Levi said, excuse me, I want a collateral, a mashkon, and the mashkon was a land. So Reuven told Levi, I'm getting out of here. Or maybe he never lived there. It's a field, And we had this many times. We saw it in many other prokim. Levi now moves in for the time being, for as long as the mashkanta the loan wasn't paid. You can have mashkanta desura. Remember that you pay as you go along. Let's say every year we decide it's worth $1 million out of the 10 million you owe. Lamaisa, Levi is already accustomed to living and working in this field, not as an owner, but as a collateral holder, as a lender, but he feels at home because wow, that piece of land is what is really nice. So soft, such soft soil, amazing wheat, amazing breeze, nice neighbors, or so I thought, until they started fighting. And then comes the day in which Levi comes to Reuven and says, you know what? Let's stay good friends. Forget about it. Just sell me your land. And Reuven says, yeah, I will sell you my land. Levi has the right to do that. Shimon barges in like a crazy and says, no, Levi has the right to stay in the land that he got used to as a Baal Mashkanta. Why? Says the Gemara, Mashkanta leis b'mishum dina de b'matzra. A Mashkanta holder, meaning the lender that's used to having it there, he has the right before he jumped the queue and he's standing in the queue in the line before Shimon. Why? Rav Ashi says, the old people of the town of Mata Machsia told me, my mashkanta. What does the word mashkanta actually mean? Why do we call mashkanta that way? The shechuna gabei, because the one holding the mashkanta is his own neighbor. In other words, who's the closest neighbor to you? You. Very philosophical sounding. In other words, Levi, you're saying you're close to the land, so you want it? I live in the land. I am in the land, actually, myself. I am my closest neighbor because I'm myself. Who's your closest relative? Yourself. Who's your closest neighbor? You. You are close to the land. I'm closer to you. I'm in it. And I have the right to be there legally as a mashkanta. I'm also partial owner, by the way, as a mashkanta. Mimela what? Mimela will go to me first, to Levi, who lived there for a few years or whatever, owned it for a few years, before Shimon has the right. My nafkamina. What is a nafkamina to say that he's the closest neighbor? I told you. Ladina de Balmatzra, Ladina de Balmatzra. I already explained it. Yeah, I jumped the gun. Ladina de Balmatzra, which means who is the first one to be the neighbor who will be the interested buyer? The Baal Mashkanta. That's, by the way, a good nafkamina. Let's say Reuven wants to sell it to Yehuda. Stam, a guy from Or Yehuda, a guy from far away, came Yehuda, not part of the story. Yehuda has two people jumping on his throat, Levi and Shimon. Levi has the rights before Shimon. Shimon is the neighbor. Levi is the resident, right? And therefore, he'll be the one to buy it first before Shimon and definitely before other foreign people completely. Continues the Gemara. Oh, now let's say Reuven has to, from now on, we're going to talk about urgent sales. Yeah. The process of selling a house, I don't know if you noticed, usually takes time. Yeah. You find a buyer, b'chule, and you have to advertise. Yeah. I know a lot of Olim told me that big Nissim, they sold the house in America or England, and it was very easy, uncharacteristically, and they moved to Eretz Yisrael. Very, very nice. Now, what happens if Reuven wants to buy that field in the eyes of Reuven, the current owner, is really a low-class field or house. He wants to buy a much, much nicer one, a 5-star one. He wants to buy a much nicer house over here or field instead of this one. He wants to sell this cheap one and buy this one currently owned by Tanchum, someone else. Yeah, he wants to buy that dream home. Finally, there'll be more house, better housing. He wants basically in Hebrew called meshaprei diur. Yeah, he wants to sell the old bad one and buy a nicer one. Okay, but this one will not wait for him forever. Tanchum, the owner of the 5-star house, you have to add some money, says, listen, it's on the market, but there are other people interested. Yeah, okay. So now what's the story? Limko berochoik veligol bekorov. Let's say this field is far away from Reuven's house, and this field is much closer to Reuven's house. Yeah, Reuven's house. Here he has to travel 2 hours every time he needs to plant some wheat. Here it's next door to him. Much better for him to buy. Finally, there's a field next door, much better for him, much more of a 5-star than this one, which is far away. By the way, ignore the sizes. The sizes are absolutely, don't mean anything here. Now, Bera, the legal beyofe, he wants to sell that relatively bad field and buy a much nicer 5-star field. Then, Leis b'mishum dina de bar matzra. There's no bar matzra. Whoever is going to quickly buy it first, Levi comes that night. Yeah, while he barely advertised it, Levi says, cash now. I'm buying it from you now. He'll sell it to Levi. Comes Shimon all red in the face. I'm sorry, Shimon. I could not wait with the sale. Because if I will start waiting until you say, maybe me, I'll bring you money tomorrow, maybe there's another neighbor. Until I start the whole balagan, bar matzra neighbors, this will be snatched away from me. My dream home, my dream field, the better one or the closer one to my house will be taken away from me. I don't have to wait for you and all the neighbors and the ganze process and procedure of bar matzra. And if I got a quick seller, a quick buyer, I'll sell him quickly in order not to lose my field the other side. As Rashi says, Asisar works both ways, to the neighbor, but also for the seller. A few other cases of urgent sale, no questions from now till the end. There are 3 reasons why people have to get rid of a field right now. And therefore, we don't demand of them to start waiting and seeing maybe a neighbor and start telling him and v'chulei. And Levi, by the way, it's anyhow not Reuven's chiyuv. I mean, it's Levi's chiyuv. Levi has no chiyuv to wait because he's helping Reuven to sell his field that he has to sell urgently. Karga are charges, taxes. Let's say Reuven did not pay his taxes, and says Rashi, the shoter will be angry. The policeman will be angry. And in a nice, democratic, pluralistic, human rights world today, what do you do to a guy who doesn't pay taxes, right? You put him in jail in subhuman conditions for 27 years. That's such a nice thing to do, right? See, under Rubashkin. So he doesn't want to be the next Rubashkin. So he wants to pay his taxes early and quick. And the only way he can sell his taxes is by paying the taxes. By selling the house, he quickly has to sell the house ASAP before the government gets on him, and he sells it to Levi. You Shimon can't say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time to your, and you have every right otherwise to come and complain. That is only if what? If people had time. There was no time here. Another case is Mizoini. Let's say this field belongs to Oliver Shalom, a very dear man who left behind an almono, and she needs mizoines. She needs to be paid and be fed. We're either talking about ksuba, even before the ksuba, the mizoines, the almono, before she gets the ksuba, which is one lump sum, she gets monthly stipend, food. She and her daughters, and who did they get it from? From the land that belongs to the Yisomim. His sons, the heirs, the males, they pay. Now they don't have the money ran out of the bank account. She needs to buy money and clothes and school stuff. She doesn't have to buy money. She has to buy clothes and food and sandwiches of the kids now. Now she has to eat tomorrow. She has nowhere else where how to pay the water bill, the almona. The only way she has is from where? From the Yisomim's money. The Yisomim have no money. The Yisomim have a field. This Reuben and Shimon and Levi, they are Yisomim, and they have to sell the field now because the almana that they owe money to, because they're supposed to be her temporary supporters until the ksuba, they're supposed to pay her money right now, otherwise she's going to starve. So Levi came with money. The Yisomim or the custodian, it could be also big Yisomim, it could be 30 years old, by the way, yeah? The Yisomim come and they quickly sell it to whoever comes first, but don't have time to wait for you, Shimon, and all the other neighbors and start the whole meetings and bad meetings. It has to be done now. It has to be done now, and therefore we don't wait for v'chule. Reuven, the same owner of the field, he died, and people have to bury him. And the only people who bury him are people who charge 200,000 shekels for the burial plot. And they don't have 200,000 shekels from some odd reason. The Avrechim, what do? They sell the field. Can we wait with that? Chas v'shalom. The father is actually lying there where? In Hadassah's morgue, in the freezer. Yeah, so they have to get money right now. Yeah, how did they get the money right now? By selling the field right now. And therefore, we're not waiting again until Shimon starts his business. Levi came with money. We quickly give him the field and get the money, and we bury the father. In urgent cases, yeah, SOS, we don't wait until, first comes, first served the chule. The Amri Nardo, because Nardo said a parallel halacha, those three things, the karga, the mizoinu, the kvura, the same things for taxes and for feeding the almana and for kvura, for burying the dead, we sell those things beloy achrazta, which means, let's say that the Yisoimim, these Yisoimim have to sell a field, and we're concerned maybe they're underpricing it, miskidding, maybe people exploit them. You need to do achrazta. You first have to do achrazta. I think also achrazta is not the Yisoimim. I think achrazta here is yeah. In other words, we sell it without announcing people, without making an announcement of the value and seeing more or less like how's it called? Like an auction. We don't auction the field and say who's going to pay more. Usually we take care of Yisomim's money because we're concerned Yisomim will be exploited. So you make at least, I think, 30 days or 60 days of achraza. You have to announce and make an auction and see who's going to pay more, because maybe people will underprice them and use them. But when things are very urgent, because you have to get rid of the field right now, because people have to eat, or people have to be buried, or people have to pay taxes, or else they'll chop off their heads or put them in jail, then what? We pay quickly, we sell it quickly, get rid of it, without, checking into the tzitzis, as they say, without making the achrasta, even at the expense of Yisoimim. Kol sheken, says Rashi, because these are all adult people, because Shimon, you had the idea, you want it first, you usually have the right to be the first owner, first comes, first served. Here, we don't look at your rights, because urgency is above your need of a yosher v'atoiv. One more, if you allow me, one more, and then we finish. Three types of people, not because of urgency, three types of people, besides Goyim, three types of Yidden that are the kind of Levi that we don't apply Hayosher V'Atoiv to. Let's say Levi is not Levi, he is Rachel or Leah. She is Leviah, she is a woman. Leisha V'Liatmi. Let's say Levi is a small Yosem, 10 years old, guided by custodian, which we hope does the best. V'Leshutfi. Let's say Levi was the partner of Reuven. Let me explain to all three, and then we're done with the shiur today. If a woman bought a field because it's not derech eretz for a woman to run around and look for this field, the other field. A woman is less savvy, maybe because of tznius. It's not derech eretz to tell a woman, you woman, you get out of here. I want the field first. You should go with your money and look for other fields. Women are not so into starting buying a field here and there. She could if she wants to. It's not usher. But for a woman, we don't demand of her, get out of here. I want it first. It's not derech eretz. She's too fragile, too frail to start looking for fields here and there. She found a field. Let her have the field. Now, what about Yisoimim? Same thing. Even if the Yisoimim below Bar Mitzvah are guided by custodian is not always paid. We hope is trusted. Leave the Yisoimim alone. Yisoimim have a lot of rights in Yiddishkeit. If the Yisoimim are the ones who bought the field, let them stay here. Don't make the poor Yisoimim, the orphans, to start wandering around until they find a better field. They found a field, let them stay here. What about a shutaf? That's a bit more lomdus. Let's say Reuven and Levi were shutfim, and Reuven is getting out of the partnership, and Levi is now buying out Reuven. Comes Shimon and says, what do you mean buying out? No. I would view the field as half-half. You know the way, you want to hear my worldview, says Levi? That's how I view it. I view that as, Reuven being here, and you, Levi, was always here, even though it's not true. They were all mixed together. And therefore, he's out of the story. No, so I'm a neighbor before you. I'm a neighbor, not you. So we say no. We say that because Levi and Reuven were all mixed together, Mimele, when Reuven is out, automatically Levi comes into all the missing holes where Reuven is now out. We look at Levi as being like a mashkanta, being part of the entire story more than Shimon. And therefore, Levi will be the partner that will take over the whole thing. And he's before Shimon, who's just a neighbor. Well, Levi was more than a neighbor. He was a local shutaf. Shchene Ha'ir is tomorrow. Atzlocho, brocha, have a terrific good day. May we all be matzliach in all our asokim. Shefa, brocha, v'atzlocho. Thank you to everybody in YouTube, our channel. Thank you to Torah Anytime. And Kol Lashon. And questions are more than welcome now. You can email me your questions too, and you can ask them right now if you're right here. Thank you, and Hatzlocha. Have a great day.